Hello and welcome to the Judge Orientation and Training for the National History Day in Iowa District Contest. We are very excited to have you here with us, helping the students along on their National History Day journey. The agenda for this video training is just to talk about what you as a judge will be doing and the expectations of your role. We'll talk about the contest structure, the entry evaluation. We'll talk about ranking and giving feedback to the students, and then next steps and where to go if you have any questions. So what is your role as a judge? I first want to talk about the student journey, the students that participate in National History Day. What is their journey? They are researchers. They have found primary and secondary sources that match the topic that they have selected, that then connects to the theme of the year, which we'll talk about in a moment. They are analyzing those sources, any interviews that they've had. They are putting those resources to work to analyze, to make an argument about the topic's significance in history. They are creating a project in one of 5 areas that share the conclusions and then is supported with all of that evidence that they found. And then they're competing at a National History Day competition. So what's happening here in Iowa is that the students are working on this mostly in school as a class project. Then they come to a district contest, and there's 9 across the state of Iowa. And then some students will progress to the state contest or the affiliate contest. And then some students will move forward to the national contest, which takes place in June. I will note that most students will not progress past the regional contest, which is why your role is ever so important with these district contests. So your mission as a judge, we want you to foster a love of history in the students. We don't want you to quash dreams of students. Respect every student. Show them that that you care, that you appreciate what they're doing by writing in those constructive feedback comments. You want to give every project equal consideration. So even if in your 7 or 8 projects that you're looking at, you have the same topic for 2 or 3 of them, it is new to the students each time, and we don't compare project to project. Ultimately, what we want is for the students to have happy memories of their participation in National History Day. So let's talk about the contest structure. For the district contest, we are going virtual, and the registration is through the National History Day software system called Z-Fairs. You will have already registered in the contests through Z-Fairs, and the link is listed there on the screen. And that's how you will receive your information, both your judge team information. This is where you will also see the projects, fill out the evaluation forms, and then keep any notes. You will discuss with your judge partner the projects, and then you will also rank the entry forms, and then ultimately write those comments that are really going to help the students prepare for the next level, or just prepare for more research that they might take. The virtual contest structure looks like this. There'll be teams of two people. One person on that team will be a captain. The captain is not the commander of the group. They are just the leader in the sense that they will help with the technical side of things. They will also turn in the rank form, but it is a team effort between the 2 people. There's a preliminary round where all of the projects are judged, and then some of those projects will move on to a final round of judging. There are no student interviews with these virtual contests, and there is, as I mentioned, an electronic rank and evaluation forms that do need to be submitted. So here's more information about the entry evaluation. I'll walk you through the different parts of the information that you'll see. There's a title page with each project, and on the title page, it will have the title of the entry, the student names, the contest division, the project category, and the applicable word counts. Note that for documentary and performance categories, there will be a link included, which is where you can go view the recording of the performance or where you can view the documentary video. The process paper is a 500-word description of the research progress, which is required for all categories. It should not include quotes, images, or captions, but it should attempt to answer: how did the student choose the topic? How does it relate to the theme? How did the students conduct the research? How did the students create their project? What's the historical argument? And in what ways is your topic significant to history? This is essentially a snapshot or an overview of their entire project within the process paper. Also included in this information is the annotated bibliography. And this is really important to take a look at, and it is required for all categories. An annotated bibliography must list all of the sources consulted, be separated into primary and secondary sources, and the annotations must be no more than 2 to 3 sentences, but really talk about the answers to these 2 questions. How did the student use the source? And how did the source help the student understand the topic? That's what those annotations are supposed to achieve within the bibliography. And finally, the project. And this is really the meat of what you'll be looking at. And for the purposes of these contests, they're broken into age divisions: junior, which is 6th through 8th grade, senior, 9th through 12th grade. And then students can work individually, or they can work in groups up to 5 students. I will note that the paper category is the only category where students cannot work in a group. And here you can see those 5 categories that I've been talking about. There's documentary, exhibit, paper, performance, and website. And students can select one of these areas in which to create their project. So now let's talk about rules and criteria. The National History Day does have a rule book, which is linked in the ZFAIRS page in each contest on the judge page. It talks about category evaluations and category instructions, and we're going to go over these right now. So here's a breakdown of the rubric that you will be using to turn in your comment forms. They talk about the level of achievement, and then there's column headers for that. There's criteria, descriptors, which help then further help you suss out the criteria. There's spots available for written comments, and then there are rule specific comments for each particular category. What is really important to remember is that 80% of the criteria for the projects is based on historical quality. This is the meat, the heart of what these students will be working on. And so that's why it's 80% of the scoring criteria. Look at historical argument, which is the thesis or the claim, seeing its attachment to the theme, identifying if there was wide research, looking at the primary sources that were selected, looking at historical context, placing it in that historical context. Did the student show multiple perspectives? How about historical accuracy? And then lastly, significance to history. Don't need to get hung up on the necessary clarity of presentation. There could be some errors as you're looking through the projects at the district contest level. That's okay. You would want to note those, but it won't disqualify anyone at this level because we want to give them time to be able to improve if their project does move on to the next level. And then there's the clarity of presentation, which is category specific, but then also ties into the student voice. So let's talk about these different sections in more depth. So a historical argument is the central point or focus of a project in 1, 2, or 3 sentences. It is sometimes called a thesis or claim. This is what you're looking for as a judge. Is this clearly demonstrated throughout the materials that you're looking at? It must be supported by evidence, and that is something else to look for is it supported by the evidence that students have found through their research? But I want to point out, it does not have to be labeled. It does not have to say, this is my thesis. The historical argument can be woven in to the entire document, but it should be evident, but does not have to be clearly labeled as the historical argument, thesis, or claim. Like I said before, there is an annual theme, and this is the big idea that unifies all of the projects for the year. Each entry can be of a different topic, but it must connect to the theme. And it goes beyond just using the words. You want to connect to those fundamental ideas of the theme, and you must be able to see the connection or the correlation to the theme. And once we get further in, there's separate criteria for this for this year, for 2022. Here is the 2022 theme. It is debate and diplomacy in history, successes, failures, and consequences. You can learn more about the theme by going to the National History Day page, nhd.org/theme. Remember that students must construct historical significance connected to the theme, and they must support their argument as it relates to the theme. Students do not have to address both debate and diplomacy, but they have to address successes, failures, and consequences. This is a very large topic, which allows students to pick from many different areas for their projects. So what makes a good topic? Obviously, it's connected to the theme that we just talked about, but it can be from any subject area. It can be addressing short-term and long-term effects. It does need an argument. So again, the students have to convince you of their reasoning. And then students have to be interested in it. They have to be able to do the research, to carry it out. But for you as a judge, keep in mind that some of these topics may be very new to you, but to a student, they may not be new. They might not have known about these. So keep in mind that these students are generally younger than the age of most of the judges. Students have to do wide research, and this refers to the variety and types of sources, from books to photographs, to newspaper articles, to interviews, all of these things that are included in the research. This applies to both secondary and primary sources, but you're looking for quality over quantity. They don't have to have hundreds of different resources, but what are the resources that they selected, and are they of a quality basis? You're going to look for variety based on the topic, but remember, some topics have more research than others. So keep that in mind as you're looking over their research portion in their bibliography. Sources on the internet are perfectly fine if they're credible. Remember, the majority of these students do research online. Not all of them will actually venture into a library. So online resources are perfectly credible. And not all sources are available for students. So again, going back to my other point, remember that not all students are able to travel to a university library and archive. And so we are taking this into account when looking at their research. To talk about primary sources, these are the sources that are connected to an event by time or participation. There's many different primary source types. You can say eyewitness accounts, letters, speeches, newspaper articles, oral history interviews, oral traditions. There are many different types of primary sources, and these are used to develop and support the historical argument. Again, we're looking at quality over quantity, and again, they will vary based on topic. Historical context. This is the larger setting in which the topic took place. There are many things that can be tied to this. You can have economic, social, intellectual, political conditions of the time and the place. And so you're looking for an understanding that the students grasp that concept, include it in their research and in their project, and then they can make connections to that with their topic. Does the student show or see how the topic fits into the larger historical surroundings? And then thinking about what is relevant and what is interesting. We're looking for that relevant information rather than those interesting facts. We want that deep historical research. Multiple perspectives. A perspective is one point of view, one person's experience. And so with multiple perspectives, it is looked at from more than one point of view, more than one vantage point. And primarily, these are from different opinions. So consider the project and the research and the topic. It may be more apparent or nuanced depending on the topic choice, and does not need to represent each side equally. But again, the student needs to show that they understand that there are multiple perspectives that impact their topic. But please remember, other perspectives may be different from your own or the student's held belief. So again, coming to these with an open mind, not being judgmental because you may not agree with these multiple perspectives that are being shown. And then historical accuracy. For NHD, historical accuracy is very important and includes three parts: accurate, credible, and without critical omissions. And so you're looking for these parts of it as well. So accurate is free from mistakes in historical information. They're not mixing up dates or including inaccurate information. Credible, so make sure that the information is reasonable to believe if you don't know a lot about it. And then without critical omissions, so includes all the information needed for a complete understanding of the topic. And significance in history. This is the impact or consequences of a topic, both in the short term and the long term. So with impact, you're looking for the short or long-term impact or legacy of the topic of choice. And then thinking about so what? How did this topic change history? Or what happened after this topic took place? And think about both global and local. Both are okay. They can look at their town. They can look at Iowa. They can look at it on a national level. The success of a project does not depend on the scale of the impact. So now let's talk about clarity of presentation. This is 20% of the evaluation, and it looks at how effectively the students used their chosen category to present their topic. For instance, if a student created a documentary, how did the creation of the documentary or that documentary form work toward the goals of the project? And these vary by category except for student voice. So next we're going to go through the different we're going to talk about student voice, and then we're going to talk about these different areas and how the different project areas impact this 20% of the evaluation. So student voice is referring to the student's ideas in analysis. The ideas should be clear and in balance with the supporting evidence, like the material, like the research that they did from their primary and secondary sources. This student voice is included in each category, and you want to look to see how easy it is to identify the students' ideas in the project. Remember, these are all student-generated projects. They will have help from adults in their lives, but this is a student-generated project. This is something that they should do on their own or with their group. And then also looking at the ideas, are they in balance with or overwhelmed by the supporting evidence? And then we also in 2022 put in clarity of presentation into this section as well. So here's an example of student voice for each project area. This is an example from an exhibit. You can see how in the different sections here, which are both from the exhibit board, but then also from the process paper and the annotated bib, you can see how these resources connect to each other. You can see how the students process these and included these different pieces of information. So the student ideas are the student ideas are supported by, but not overwhelmed with the evidence here. For documentary, you are looking at um, audio and visual. So is the audio appropriate and easy to understand? Is it spoken at a pace to which you can hear it? Is it loud enough? Is it soft enough? Thinking about the visuals and the appropriateness of the supporting, of how that supports the narrative. So think about all of the different resources. Did they use the same photograph over and over again? Those are things to take note of. And then also on the technical side, and thinking about is the narration free of mechanical or grammatical errors? Is it clean without being choppy? Is the volume even? All of these things come into play. And then for rules compliance, the rubric will give you a binary choice of yes or no. Did they comply with the rules? And if you do click no, you have to write in justification as to why you selected that. For performance, we are looking for the student voice, you're looking for clarity for the performance, the dramatic arts the dramatic arc and advances of historical argument. The characters and scenes are developed and connected to the historical argument. The students don't have to have elaborate props, but the props and the costumes that they do use, again, need to connect to the characters, to the scenes, to the dramatic arc of the historical argument. And then also, again, on the technical side, looking for, is the speech clear and effective, expressive, and appropriately paced? Again, for rules compliance, the rubric gives you a yes/no choice for those compliance pieces. And then if you do click no, you will have to explain why. For paper, for the written materials, not only will they have to do the process paper and the annotated bib and the title paper, but they will have to write their actual paper, their paper project. So you just want to make sure that it is clear, concise, free of grammatical and mechanical errors, and is appropriate for the topic. You're looking for those citations that are written in an NHD approved format. Generally, they will use footnotes, but if a student does inline citations, that is okay. These are the things that can change or be adapted should the student move forward to the state level. And the citations credit quotations and paraphrased information. So again, we want to be on the lookout for places in which maybe there should have been an extra citation or something of that nature. And again, with the rules compliance, the rubric gives you a yes or no choice. And then if you click no, then you have to justify that reason. For the website has written materials. The process paper and the annotated bibliography are included inside of the website. And then you're also looking for clear visuals, that the text is clear, it's concise, free of grammatical and mechanical errors, and then it's appropriate for the topic. And with the visuals and any sort of media that they might use, it's connected to the argument, but it also advances the topic. You're looking for visuals or media that are maybe just put in there to because they might be interesting, but really you want those things to be connected and advance the topic rather than just put in there for the sake of including it. And then on the technical side, is the website clear in structure and organization? Can you easily click through all the different projects areas? And looking at font and choice color to enhance readability, and again, to be appropriate to the topic. For exhibits, you're looking for that written material. The text is clear, it's concise, free of grammatical errors, and is appropriate to the topic. And the visuals are connected to the argument, and they also enhance the topic. For the virtual district contest, the students will create something very similar to a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint deck with the different sections of their board. They will include the text that they would put in these sections, as well as the visual images as well. So you will not see a photo of the entire board. You will be looking at the different sections and then being able to kind of see them in parts to be able to understand the whole. You're looking at, for technical, you're looking that the exhibit is clean and clear in their organization. And again, the font choice or image choice or graphs or maps or whatever, what have you, all of those are appropriate to the topic. So in the levels of achievement and descriptors, just want to talk about those for a little bit. These are on both the historical quality and then the other section as well. And we're less concerned about the topic names. You really want to focus on the descriptions that help illustrate what those words mean. So you've got the column headers across the top that are used to label the columns, but they are not used to evaluate the entry. The topic names have changed slightly. Exemplary, proficient, developing, novice, or not evident. These tie more into what students are receiving at school. So that's why that verbiage has changed. The descriptors are the text in the boxes in each page, for each criterion. You want to identify the key characteristics you are looking for in that criterion. So again, less concerned with the words exemplary, proficient, developing, etc. And you're more concerned with the descriptors of those next to those check boxes that you will have to click in each section. So here's a more in-depth example related to the theme. So you can see that the key characteristics for the theme are clear and connected. And then when possible, descriptors use a consistent response scale. So consistently, mostly, somewhat, sometimes, limited, often rephrased to maintain the positivity with these evaluations. And you're describing the selector, you are selecting the descriptor that is most true based on the project you are viewing. Remember, you are not comparing the projects to each other. Each student project stands on their own and should be judged on their own as well. So talking more about picking the right descriptor, we can think about this in terms of pie. Descriptors are not exact matches for comparing different things. You can look across the board and all of these are pies, but they're all different flavors. Descriptors create a continuum comparing the same things and then help you to try to determine how much of it there is in the project. So looking at this example with the apple pie, how much apple pie is in the pan? So again, you can see consistently, mostly we've got a slice missing, somewhat, half of it's missing, limited or minimal, more information is needed in order to be able to fully understand. So again, think about this as you're picking those descriptors to help the students understand why it is that you selected. And then here's an example from historical arguments. So thinking about historical argument that is consistently supported by analysis and evidence. And here on the screen, you can see a description of this. And then there's mostly supported, little less information than what was in the consistently described. And then again, you can see as it goes down the row, somewhat minimal, how the description changes. So again, you're looking for that robust description in order to be able to then help place the students on the judging form. The rules help you compare projects. So there's two types of NHD rules. There's the general rules for all categories, and then there's category specific. And again, these are the ones that we were going through for each of the project areas. There are rules that are specific to each category. For instance, the documentary needs to be 10 or less minutes. That only applies to the documentary area. And remember that NHD is a contest with rules. not about rules. And then we're also on these judging forms, we're looking for an apples to apples comparison. If one judge ranked a project as exemplary, but then their partner judge raised it as developing, how was the student supposed to interpret that? So we want to make sure that between the judge team, you are presenting the information, the choices on these comment forms in a similar fashion. One person can't give them all exemplary and another person gives them developing. You want to look at and make sure that you are giving an apples to apples comparison between the two of you, between your judge team. So I want to talk about disqualification and rule infractions. One of the likeliest things that you might see, which could lead to a disqualification, is plagiarism. We haven't encountered it before, but it is something that would equal a disqualification. Minor infractions do not give a competitive advantage, like missing information on the title page or exceeding the word count or time just by a little bit. For these cases, you can advance this project, but please note that in the comment form. Major infractions give a competitive advantage. They could exceed word count, size, or time, and provide additional information. This is where you will have to use your best judgment, whether it's a minor or a major infraction. You can also contact the NHD coordinator should you have questions about this as well. If it's a major infraction, you do not want to advance and then note in the comments, and then, like I said, tell the coordinator. For disqualification, you would meet one of only 4 disqualifying violations. So they entered a project into multiple categories, they're reusing an entry from past years, plagiarism or tampering with another entry. You need to bring those to our attention as the coordinator for Iowa, and then we will make the decision from there. We don't want to disqualify students. In fact, we haven't before, but it is something that we do have to take into consideration as we move forward. So let's talk about ranking and giving feedback. And really the feedback part, like I mentioned before, is the most crucial part for the students. This is something that they comb over with such a fine-tooth comb. So we'll talk about how to give those that good feedback and comments. So evaluating versus ranking, they're two different, but they are very related tasks. So the evaluating is the assessing on how well an entry did against the criteria. How did it stand up to the criteria for the project area? And this is where you select those descriptors for each of the criteria area that I had talked about earlier. So as an example, thinking about this as a marathon, a runner's time in a race is true no matter the strength of their competition. And then there's ranking. The ranking determines the relationship of the entries against each other. It is what you do to pick the top entries. So again, using marathons as an example, a runner's rank in the race depends on how well all of the runners do. And remember that the judge captain will complete the rank form after conferring with the judge team. So the top entries generally have higher check marks in those areas where the topic and the research really ties into the exemplary categories is really robust. So the top entries generally have higher check marks because they were generally more successful in meeting the criteria. If the entries you think are your top choices do not have the highest check marks, go back and double check, because again, we're looking for that consistency throughout the judge team in order to be able to move these forward. The written comments, in addition to where you put the check boxes in the rubric, This is really what the students gravitate towards. They love to read constructive written comments. And there's one comment box this year for strength and areas of improvement. So that information can go in the one box together. And online, this form has a 500 character limit, which is fairly sizable. So please put those constructive comments in these areas or in this area. So the importance of written comments: you want to support your decisions, provide details, reasoning for why you selected a particular checkbox above or a comment on the topic. You want to give future guidance. You want to provide specific and constructive feedback, and then show support for the work. This is, like I said before, this is the section that students gravitate towards. This is where they are going to be looking for those resources to help them improve. Please do not include what I would consider to be throwaway comments like "great job" or "see you at state." We don't know at this moment when you're working on these projects which are going to move forward. So again, you're looking for those really constructive and specific comments that can help the students improve. Think of serving a compliment sandwich. You might have heard about this before, where you put positive comments at the top and the bottom, and then those things that are more constructive to help them grow, to help them learn in the middle is as the meat of the sandwich. So this is something that will help the students better understand what you're talking of. If you start with a compliment and end with a positive comment, that really does help the students, again, as they look through these comments, as they comb through them. So here are some more things to avoid. Vague compliments: "good job." What does that mean? What does that mean to the student? So put yourself in the student's shoes. So rather than saying "good job" and you can add your topic was very enjoyable. I learned something new. Again, those are all kind of vague, but again, getting to that reasoning about why you enjoyed it or what parts of the research that you found really beneficial. Comments that are critical without elaboration: find more sources. Again, what exactly does that mean? If you have expertise in this topic area, you can write, "I have found good research at the XYZ library," or things of that nature. I encourage you to add more information to your comments to make them more usable to the students. And then you also want to avoid where the checkboxes do not align with your comments. If the theme connection is checked as novice, but your comments praise the theme connection, the students are going to be confused and unsure of why you selected the checkbox for novice when down below you wrote that they had a really fantastic theme connection. Again, consider these things as you're going through. You want to be consistent throughout. And then indicating rankings or prize nominations on the evaluation form. This is not the place for any sort of ranking. Students do not receive a grade. They do not receive a number system either. So you are just writing comments that relate to the topic, their theme, their project. You are not assigning them grades. You are not indicating that they may or may not be moving forward. That is not the place in the comment forms. But overall, just be mindful of what you're writing to young learners. These are young students. They are impressionable. They have not been out in the workforce probably, and we want them to have good memories of National History Day. And again, this is your role as a judge, is to be mindful that these are young learners. Please be kind. So here is an example of what the screen will look like in ZFairs when you log in. You've got the rank sheets, which is what I talked about, where you rank the students 1 through 7 or however many projects you have in your area. You will give each of them a number, each of them the rank, 1 being the top, and then the lower numbers meaning they're the lowest in the ranking. You're going to collaborate with your team, make sure that everybody agrees on the ranking, and then the captain will submit the rank sheet. There's a separate button for that. And these are due before the evaluation forms. We ask that the rank sheets be turned in before the evaluation forms because if there is a final round, this helps us on the staff side know which students are moving on to the final round. So you can complete your rank form before you complete your evaluation form. That way, again, it will help us prepare for the next stage of the contest. For the evaluation forms, again, you're going to discuss with your team. You're going to be consistent across the judge team. But again, you don't have to be identical, but you want to be close, an apples to apples comparison. And these are also due by the end of the judge time period. So if you've got any questions, there's places for you to look. And remember, this is, again, another refresher of the contest process. And lastly, let the district coordinator know if you have any of these things happen, or you just have a question. If you suspect of any disqualifying offenses, please email or call the links on the screen. If you think that entries should not advance to the next level, again, let the coordinator know. We can help you with that process. And then if you see or hear anything that I should know, please, again, alert the district coordinator. We are here to help you as you work through the judging process. Again, you can see the email there on the screen, nhd.iowa@iowa.gov. And the phone number is 515-346-9307. Thank you so much for judging for National History Day Virtual District Contest. We so appreciate your time, your assistance, and the good comments that you will be providing to the students. Thank you.